The world's strongest nation, the USA versus the UK, and the first time we've seen the ladies compete at Giants Live. Amazing show. The team camaraderie, the performances, everything about the evening was fantastic. Yeah. And I hope the crowd that was there enjoyed it as much as we did, being on the stage, on the floor. It was really, really cool.
You were given a little job, weren't you, Lozzie? Sort of thrown out there. Giants Live suddenly produced this desk that we've never seen before, and they were like, here you go, Loz, here's a mic, here's a Radzi, off you go. How did you find that?
I actually really enjoyed it. Working with Radzi is always really cool. Radzi's such a pro, but also a real strongman fan. He understands the sport really well. And I think we just work well with each other. It's always fun. I mean, even when we're not on camera or not kind of with the mics, we're just chatting all night long.
That's what you two would be doing anyway, wouldn't you, if you didn't have the mics in your hands?
So, no, really enjoyed it. It was great fun. I hope, if you guys enjoyed it, and I hope Giants Live liked what we did, that we can do more of that for next year's shows.
But onto the competition, and it was an 8-event extravaganza. 16 athletes in total, 5 men and 3 women on both teams, UK versus USA. Obviously, Eddie Hall and Martins Lises were the team captains. But for me, the women really stole the show.
Yeah, I've got to say, this competition was really all about the women. They stole the show, the performances were amazing, the reaction from the crowd towards the women was so positive, which is so nice to see. Oh, yeah. You know, we've been to a number of the ladies' competitions now. We know how good they are. We know how much we've enjoyed watching the women's side of the sport. I think for a greater audience to see what they can do, and they really raised their level.
They really performed. And I know the women were nervous about how the crowd would react, but it was obviously, you know, completely unfounded worries that they had, because it was absolutely brilliant. But let's start with event number 1, which was the team event, the Farmers Walk Relay.
So 2 sets of farmers, 1 for the men, 1 for the women. 20 metres there, 20 metres back. The athletes were allowed to tag in if they felt they couldn't perform it. I loved Mark Felix backstage. You've probably got a clip of this in your behind the scenes. Basically, Mark Felix's pre-event tip to all his team members: just don't struggle.
So don't struggle. To be fair, that's really good advice.
And that advice proved to be valuable, because the British team smashed this one.
But it was Rebecca Roberts catching up with Gabby Dixon that was the turning point for us. And then unfortunately for Team USA, Bobby went down a couple of times with the farmers.
Bobby ended up having an issue with his ankle. He's caused some damage, soft tissue damage to his ankle. So he struggled a bit on that one. Mark Felix was the fastest individual time out of everyone.
Which is quite incredible, really, isn't it? Like,
a 56-year-old man.
He's having like a second wind. I don't know if it's second, third or fourth wind at this point for Mark Felix. But
I mean, just some of the individual time. So obviously it's the team time that counted. And the fastest individual performance was Mark Felix at 23.8 seconds. He was the fastest out of any of the athletes.
In second place was another Brit, and that was Rebecca Roberts. And it was Rebecca straight into Mark afterwards, I believe.
And that's when they really separated themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Gabby Dixon, very fast as well. She was the fastest out of the American team, but it was all about those 2 Brits that really stole the show on this first event. So with the scoring, basically each team that won an event got 3 points, and the individual best performance also got a bonus point for that team. So UK off to a 4-point lead, which at the end of the competition would equate to a 2-second head start. It's half a second per point.
So they went straight from one grip event right into another with the Hercules hold, and in this event it was 2 men and 2 women from each team doing it, and the best total team time would win.
So you had Martins Lises go around about 1 minute and 2. Gabby Dixon and Rebecca Roberts both going over 1 minute. Gabby Dixon taking second place out of all the athletes. Every athlete using the same weight on this event. Only the incredible, ridiculous grip strength of Mark Felix managing to beat everyone. But 2 of the women inside the top 4.
So what a lot of people have been asking is, like, surely it's just lighter for shorter athletes because they've got shorter arms. But Giants Live do adjust the chain so it's the same wingspan for everyone.
Look, I can't get my head around it still.
No.
I'm kind of...
It seems unbelievable.
Half of me wants to sort of question it and say there must be like some kind of mechanical advantage. Part of my ego is trying to say that, you know. My best time's around like the high 50 seconds on this. I'm like, These girls stronger than me now.
Yeah.
And it could be a completely different type of grip event and you might get a different result. Yeah. But everyone used the same bit of kit. Number 1 was Mark Felix. Number 2 was Gabby Dixon. And how good was Gabby all weekend?
She was brilliant. She does everything with a smile on her face as well. Have you ever seen anyone smile that much during a Hercules hold?
Just every event. She's so happy to be there and just put in an incredible performance. So even with that incredible performance from Gabby, it wasn't enough to take the points. The UK team winning once again, due mainly to the incredible Mark Felix, but Rebecca Roberts as well, backing him up extremely well. And Mark once again taking the extra bonus point. So the UK off to an 8-point lead after the first 2 events. Event number 3 was the hammer hold. And let's address it. There was a little bit of controversy on this one. Again, 2 men, 2 women from each team.
I'm going to have to call Magnus.
Magnus.
He's like, is my refereeing okay? And I said yes, but it must have been before the Hercules, the hammer.
I had a chat with Magnus backstage and, he's been talking about the refereeing and I thought his refereeing was pretty good. I will say I was quite far away in terms of distance watching this.
See it,
so I didn't see anything on the night. I have seen some replays.
Yeah. And Eddie's bum wasn't on the pole.
Eddie's bum was definitely off. And I addressed in the live, Eddie was low on the hammer. But I don't blame Eddie for that. I don't blame Eddie for any of the things. The referee's the one that has to say that's, it needs to be higher, your bum needs to be touching. As an athlete, you just fight and you kind of pretend that it's a good position until the referee says down.
This is fine.
So, maybe it is one of those situations we do need stricter refereeing because, to be fair, looking at how tight this event was, very quickly, just the hammer hold times. America's time, 3 minutes, 31 seconds. The UK's time, 3 minutes, 32 seconds.
Yeah.
I feel this event was won by America.
Yeah. Wow. Do you know what?
It wasn't.
No.
The UK got all 4 points once again, but I think Trey Mitchell looked rock solid.
He did. Trey really did, yeah.
I think if we're going to look back and be fair, I'm going to hold my hands up. I think the American team deserved to win that one.
It was very hard to see from where we were
I couldn't see it
because
at all
there was
on the
lots
night.
of crew there as well. But I thought Trey had won, so I'm congratulating Trey out back. He's like, I didn't win. I was like, what?
I thought Eddie was great because you could see Eddie was struggling.
From quite early.
Yeah. And I actually thought Eddie was just going to drop it, but he's a determined man and he kept fighting really, really hard. So from the athlete's point of view, I was like, yeah, fair play. Like I've said many times, I don't ever blame the athlete. The referee's the one that has to say it's a good lift or it's a bad lift or you need to put it down. As an athlete, you just fight and you give 100%. So I was so impressed with how he did. And like I said, I was from a very big distance, but I've seen a picture today where his ass was probably about that far away from the platform. So that's something that, looking back, I do think most people will agree the Americans deserve to win that event.
I think it's one of those. It's a bit of a non-event anyway, isn't it? It's a good filler. It is. It's one of the. It's not the most interesting or exciting, and it's an event they don't do as often anymore. I know they need lots of events to give.
8 events. Yeah, it's a different test.
I understand why they used it, but let's just get rid of it.
Next, we moved on to the axle deadlift. In this event, we had 220 kilos for the ladies and 360 kilos for the men. And once again, Gabby Dixon taking the event win, or really shining in another event. She got 10 reps on the deadlift, winning that event. But for me as well, Graham Hicks hitting 7 reps was very, very impressive. Unfortunately, it kind of destroyed Hicksy. Hicksy, unfortunately, had been
really unwell leading into it.
And I think his chest was struggling with an infection. Ended up having to pull out of the competition. So he gave everything on this one. 7 reps on a 360 axle. That axle is very impressive. But Gabby Dixon with 10 reps. In the end, this event ended up as a draw. 27 reps for each team. So the points were split. 1.5 points for each team, but still a bonus point for Team America this time, with Gabby Dixon being the athlete with the most individual reps. So we moved on to the log lift. Yeah. Now, this was an interesting one, as the UK team didn't have a second man to do this event. Athletes were kind of falling apart at this point. Bobby Thompson ended up pulling out from the American side. He was supposed to do the log for the Americans.
Kevin had to do a surprise log on that side,
So Hicksy couldn't compete.
No.
Bish is coming back from a tricep injury, so not really able to do that type of event just yet. Unfortunately, Mark Felix isn't really capable of lifting this kind of weight on the log. Eddie was focusing on doing the Viking press. Gav Bilton, bless him, he was ready to go twice.
He was, but they wouldn't let him. And I'm glad. It would have been awful if he hadn't got injured. So, no, it was the right thing, yeah. So, unfortunately, we only had one man go out.
Yeah, and, as a team, the UK only managing 13 reps on this one, whereas the US team, very, very solid. You had 24 reps.
Yeah. We should point out of our 13 reps, 8 of them were from Andrea, who has a bit of a bicep injury, but so she really struggled with the clean. But her press, she's so powerful, she's so strong.
Yeah, she just, because of the bicep, she just wasn't as quick as she normally could be on the clean, but the press looked effortless, as it always does for her. She is a beast when it comes to the shoulders. But Inez, just missing out on a night, technically very, very good and much, much quicker at the transition from the floor up to the shoulders.
Nadia Stowers also with her Viper pressing. She's just crazy. She's the lightest woman there. She weighs about 77 kilos, Nadia.
She's as low as that right now?
Yeah, she's as low as that, and she's Viper pressing 90 kilos.
She is a strong lady, but a very dominant win there with that one for the American team, and they were starting to claw back and get into the competition. So we should point out on the log press, Team America won, but it was a split for the extra bonus point between Inez and Andrea, so half a point each for both teams. Now the Viking press, the awaited return of Eddie Hall on the Viking press. In his heyday, the best in the world when it came to Viking press. He got under, was first to go out, and the first 3 reps just flew up. 4th rep, he felt something pop in his lat, unfortunately, and ended up having to pull out of the event. So it gave Martins Lisses a very comfortable win. Martins doing 17 reps, obviously he only needed 5, but he put on a performance and made sure he got the extra points for Team America. Lizzie, talk to me about the next event, the tug of war. This was an interesting one.
Yeah, so initially it was supposed to be 3 rounds for the women, so they'd go up against each other 3 times, then the men 3 times, then the team 3 times. Now they had these rubber mats, and in testing when it was done on concrete, apparently as a grippy mat it worked extremely well. But of course we were dealing with carpet in this arena, and it didn't work that well. It held on okay initially, but then it started to bunch up, obviously, loads of pressure being applied to it. Yeah, so it wasn't ideal. So they just did 1 round each of the women, 1 round each of the men. The women, I've got some good angles actually, so you can see what happened, but Inez slipped initially, and then when she got back up, she never really got her foot right again. It was never in the right place. She says she's rolled her ankles like a million times because she used to play volleyball, and she went down again, and Team UK were just there to capitalise, I guess, and they pulled them over the line.
Yeah, it was an interesting one. I know the athletes actually really enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed it.
Certainly the UK athletes enjoyed it.
I know a lot of people were saying, so much, but ended up being a bit of a mess, but I thought it was absolute. It was a hot mess.
I think a little bit of adjusting for next time, and it will be a really cool event. Yeah. I'm glad they cut it down to just 1 round rather than the 3. I think 3 rounds would have just been exhausting. Yeah, especially considering the women were almost doing every event because of less athletes.
Yeah, with the men, it was quite a similar story on Team USA. Martin's foot, because they'd moved over to the carpet, but his foot went on the mats, and that sort of started kicking up. And it was quite funny though, because Team UK thought they'd won when Spencer went down at the front, but they hadn't actually pulled it over the line either, so they had to quickly go again. But Team UK ended up winning both rounds in the end, and they decided not to do the team versus team in the interest of protecting the athletes.
So the final event was the power stairs. 5 athletes from each team, 2 women and 3 men. And the UK team had that 4-second advantage, and that was more than enough for them to take the win. Big Gav Bilton, the last man to carry the last heavy 225 kilo duck walk across the floor and then up the stairs. So pleased for the UK team, but everyone seemed to really enjoy it. There was cuddling, embracing. Both teams seemed to have an amazing time, and more importantly, I think the crowd really, really enjoyed it. One thing I really noticed with that last event, just the crowd was going crazy for the whole time.
That way through. And I think the best events on the day were the ones where the whole team were involved. So the farmers relay, the tug of war, and then the final event as well. I'd like to see much more events like that rather than the individual ones. I liked how they scored it with the individual stuff, but I'm just excited because there's so much potential for things that they could do with this event.
They could really make this become a big thing. I hope they do. I hope everyone that watched it enjoyed it. If you haven't watched it, head over to Official Strongman. I believe you can still watch it on there.
You can. And let Giants Live know if you enjoyed it as well, because if they don't know, I mean, you can already buy tickets for next year's
Comment below,
competition.
Giants Live, look at our channel. So comment below, let everyone know that you want to see more of the women and more team competitions moving forward. We had a blast.
Yes, it was absolutely. It was a great way to finish up, because that's the last live competition we're going to this year, thank God. But it was just such a fun way to end it, wasn't it? And it was so nice to have the women and the men, and just a really great group of people as well.
It was indeed. I hope you guys enjoyed this show. I hope you've enjoyed the whole of the Giants Live season so far. Let us know in the comments below, please, if you enjoyed this one. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys next time. Take it easy.